Hello! Welcome to my channel. I'm Jason White and this is Jason's Weird Reads, and today I'm doing part 2 of my Q&A, my 5,000 subscriber celebration Q&A video, but this is more of a resource guide because I get this question since I started talking about Buddhism. What books can I read in regards to Buddhism, and where can I learn more about Buddhism? I don't generally talk too much about Buddhism on my channel because, well, it's a horror booktube channel for the most part. It's also fantasy and science fiction, but I do read a lot of Buddhist books, and I do listen to and watch a lot of Buddhist things. And I got in that Q&A video, I was asked by three people about Buddhism, and they've asked questions before, and I've always been meaning to do a video like this, especially for Pax Panic, because she's asked the most. So I'll say hers first. Pax Panic, she says, "Major congrats, Jason, on 5,000. Thank you, Pax. And I'm curious about your Buddhist philosophy reads. Any recommendations?" And Nakia, by Nakia's Hideaway, she also says, "Congratulations on 5,000 subscribers. Her question is, my question would be, how do you stay so zen?" And in my Q&A answer video, I mentioned that when I go through bouts of depression and whatnot, a lot of people in my life don't know. I seem zen on the outside, but I'm not always zen on the inside. And I don't know how or why I'm able to do that, but it's easy for me to do that. I just don't talk about my depression unless I'm doing it with everyone in the world. She also goes on to say, "Do you have any daily spiritual practices such as meditation or yoga, or any booktube channels you go to for spirituality and typical books?" She had a two-part answer, and I answered one of them on that last video, but she also says that she's also very interested in my Buddhist reads, such as Pax Panic or Pax Asked below. So yes, there are a lot of books that I've read, and I enjoyed, and this is, I hope, somewhat of a guide to get people to reading more Buddhist stuff if they want to. I should mention that I split this video up into 3 sections. So we have books, we have YouTube channels, and we have podcasts. These are the 3 Buddhist things I tend to consume. So to answer Nakia's question, do I have any practices, spiritual practices such as meditation or yoga? Yes, I try to meditate every day when I can, at least for 10 minutes, but I like to go for like a half hour or more. I find that meditation has really taught me about who I am as a person, so I can't stress that enough, and there's plenty of places where you can learn how to meditate, and what I would say is the more traditional way of doing it. And what I mean by that is you'll find a lot of meditations on YouTube where they play this music at certain speeds or whatever that are supposed to help heal your brain or do something for you. I would honestly avoid those. The main purpose for meditation, at least in the Buddhist tradition, is to gain a deeper understanding of yourself and to learn self-compassion so that you can become more compassionate towards other people. And so, just to get that question out of the way, because I was afraid I wouldn't answer it, so here's the books. I read a lot of, I've read a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh. He is a Zen master, I believe, who practiced in the Mahayana tradition. And I'm going to recommend a YouTube channel below, but Thich Nhat Hanh wrote a lot of books. I think he wrote over 100 books while he was alive, and that's incredible. So the books that I like the most by Thich Nhat Hanh is Fear, Happiness. Those books are kind of related. There's also an Anger, which I haven't read yet, but I want to read. My favorite by Thich Nhat Hanh, which I would recommend to everyone, is No Mud, No Lotus. This book is about how you have to be able to learn. You don't have to, but it's healthy, it's beneficial to learn how to accept your suffering and anything you can possibly think of that's going wrong in your life. To learn how to accept it, no matter how bad it is, in order to find that would be the mud, and from that mud will grow the lotus flower. And he goes quite extensively into it. And also the heart of the Buddhist teaching. Thich Nhat Hanh in this book goes into the Four Noble Truths, which the fourth noble truth being the Noble Eightfold Path, and he explores all that pretty in depth. It's a rather dry book compared to his other ones, but it's very educational too. I wouldn't maybe necessarily start with that until you have a good understanding of what the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path is. But those, I think, are really great to start with. But again, I would honestly start with No Mud, No Lotus. That is an incredible book. Now moving on to a nun who wrote books, and I think she's still writing books. Is Pema Chodron. She's incredible. She helped me. Her books helped me through a lot of really tough times. And the biggest one, actually, it's important to say a lot of her books, especially if you get the ones that are on Audible, they're not necessarily books so much as her speaking at a retreat. And they can go anywhere between 5 to 10 hours. They're split up into the talks that she would have gave throughout this retreat. And they're full of like such wisdom. It's incredible how much wisdom that she is able to give. So I'm going to recommend from her How to Meditate. This book is pretty much exactly what it says, how to meditate. She goes into what I was kind of talking about before. The whole idea is to, when you meditate, try to avoid all that music stuff. You just sit, and you have to sit with yourself. And anytime your mind starts to wander, don't get mad at yourself. Just observe the thoughts and then come back to your breath. So basically your breath, or whatever it is you choose, is your focal point. It's what you always return to. And she's big on returning to the breath. Breathe in, know that you're breathing in. Breathe out, know that you're breathing out. Thich Nhat Hanh is big on that too. So how to meditate. The Bodhisattva Mind is is an audiobook. I don't know if it's available as a print book. It might be. But I listened to this on Audible, and it's one of those talks that are split up throughout the weekend of this retreat that she taught at. And it's basically how to become, if you follow these steps, how to become a bodhisattva, which is very much an awakened type of being. The Places That Scare You, I listened to this. I believe that's another one. And that's because it's audio, it's another talk that she gave. And also Don't Bite the Hook, which I believe is available as a print book and audio book. Don't Bite the Hook is basically there's a sort of theory. I don't know if she goes into this, but the two arrows. So in life, you're going to come across suffering. There's no avoiding it. It happens. So let's just say you sprained your ankle. That would be like being shot with the first arrow, and you feel it, and it's like ouch. And the second arrow that would hit you is what you bring to that pain. So if you're going to let that pain destroy your mood and destroy your mindset and make you miserable all around, that's the second arrow. And that's sort of what Don't Bite the Hook is about. Don't Bite the Hook is about learning to not even deal, but to accept the pain with loving kindness in yourself. Okay, next author is Noah Levine. He runs Against the Stream, which is a meditation center in California. And I would say I watch this guy the most because he brings a lot of character to the idea of Buddhism. He likes to swear and cuss, and a lot of people might say that's not right speech, but they're just words. What's behind the words is more important, and he only uses the swear words where they make most sense. But it speaks most to me. So he wrote Against the Stream, which is basically his philosophy. He follows, if you're wondering what type of tradition Noah Levine follows, he's more Theravada Buddhism. But like I said, he tends to run he has his own meditation center, and he gives Dharma talks. He's a lay person, he's not a monk. He once said in one of his Dharma talks that he considered becoming a monk, but he didn't ultimately want to. So he's definitely a lay person, but he's still a Buddha teacher, and that's great. He's, like I said, one of my favorites. So he wrote Against the Stream, and the idea of this book is how everything that Buddhism teaches goes against the stream being human instinct, and how we naturally fall into negative mindsets and whatnot, and Buddhism is going against the stream. You're sort of like swimming against the stream. The only thing is if you're able to incorporate all of Buddhism's philosophies and ideas, then you'll find success. I've already found some success. Noah Levine always goes on about how much happier do you want to be? Do you want to be 10% happier? Do you want to be 50% happier? 75% happier? And the idea being that you're never going to end pain. You're never going to end being hurt by people, but you will alleviate the suffering that goes along with it, that second arrow. And so he goes on a lot about that, and that's another thing that speaks out the most about me, or the most to me. He also wrote The Heart of the Revolution, and this goes into a lot of metta, or self-compassion and compassion itself. It's a really, really good book. He also wrote Against... you know what? I can't remember the name of his first book. His first book is mainly a memoir, and how he went from a world of drug addiction and alcoholism to how meditation and Buddhism helped him come out of that world and be where he is at today. So I highly recommend anything that Noah Levine is doing. Thubten Chodron, which I believe she's a monk in the Tibetan Buddhism, and her book Don't Believe Everything You Think is really, really good. I really enjoyed that one. And she also wrote a book called Introduction or Beginner's Guide to Buddhism, which is really, really excellent. Alan Peto, this guy runs a podcast, which I'll talk about soon, but he's also written a book called Buddhism in 10 Steps, and I really enjoyed that book. It's nothing fun about that book. It's all bare bones. He'll tell you about the different Buddhist traditions and how to practice every day if you wish to, and all that. And I highly recommend Alan Peto. He's doing a lot for Western Buddhists, and currently he's trying to help connect people who don't, like me, who don't have a temple nearby, so that they can maybe meet other Buddhists and, make us feel like we're not so alone, I guess you could say. And also, I'm just getting into Ajahn Brahm's book. Ajahn Brahm I'll be talking about in the videos, the YouTube channels, just in a second or two. But he's written a book that I'm not quite done with yet, but I'm listening to, and it's called Mindfulness, Bliss, and Beyond. This is another meditation, how to meditate type book. And I don't know if I'd recommend it for beginners necessarily, but it's I'm really enjoying it, and it's basically that he goes through very strong, very strict sort of Buddhist mindset into meditation and how to find bliss and in meditation. And it's, like I said, it's very interesting reading, and it's not necessarily something you'll be able to do in the beginning, but if you really get into it, you might be able to find yourself doing it. So those are the books. There's a fair amount there, and I might do another one of these in the future. I'm usually talking about the Buddhist books I read, so you can always subscribe if you want, especially if you don't mind horror books being talked about a lot. Right, next up is the YouTube channels. Buddhist Insights. I've been watching these guys for over a year now. They are Theravadan monks, American monks, but they always have guests at their monastery. And a lot of these guests are often from India or Italy or around America, all over the world. Theravadan monks tend to go there, and they'll sit and talk. They do live streams a lot in the mornings and at night, where they give Dharma talks, which is very handy. You could get quite involved in these videos and almost feel like you have a Sangha. A Sangha is a community of Buddhists, basically. So it's almost like a church, you could say, if you want to familiarize yourself with what a Sangha is. It's a coming together of like-minded spiritual people. And anyways, that's not necessarily the point of this channel. The channel is to educate people on the suttas and whatnot, which are the Buddha's words. It's actually important to mention here that Buddha isn't a god. I came to Buddhism thinking that Buddha was like the god of Buddhism, but he's not a god. He was just a guy who was a prince, and he learned how to find enlightenment. Enlightenment basically means being free from suffering. That second arrow I talked about earlier. And so Buddhist Insights talks about a lot of the Buddha's advice, which, like I said, is the suttas. They're constantly giving Dharma talks, or Dhamma talks as they call them, by reading the original transcripts and then translating it and talking about it, and then afterwards you can ask them questions. And every Friday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, they have what's called Monk Chat, basically where you can go with any type of Buddhist related question you have and type it in the comments, and if they have time they will get to it. I highly recommend you go on early though, and ask early as you can, because then they will be able to get to it. If you come around, they usually go from 7:30 till 9. If you come at like 8:30 or 10 to 9, they're more than likely not going to be able to get to your question. But so they are fantastic. I absolutely love these guys. Against the Stream, I talked about Noah Levine earlier. He wrote those books, but he has once a week you can do it for free, but he obviously he has a business to run, which is Against the Stream, but he runs it by donations only. So online, I've done this a couple of times myself. You can go on a Zoom meeting where he holds his Monday night meditation. He's in California, so his time is like 10:30 my time, or it's 7 o'clock, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, or Pacific time where he's at. So if you don't mind staying up late, if you're on the Eastern Coast like I am, you can attend one of these on Zoom. Like I said, he would appreciate a donation, but you really don't have to. I've donated and I've not donated and gone to these Zoom meetings, and he gives really good. Like I said, if you don't mind the swearing, because I think that's something you should mention and warn people about, because he does like to swear. And he's tattooed everywhere. He's great, but he has a really good understanding of Buddhism and the Buddhist words, and he's able to talk about it in a way that really resonates with me. I swear to God, I've watched. I don't know how many videos, 150 videos he has, because these Dharma talks and these meditation sessions that I'm talking about that he holds every Monday night, he posts later on onto his YouTube channel, so you can just watch it there if you want. But they're really good, and Noah Levine, the way he interprets Buddhism and teaches it, really speaks to me, and it's been incredible. It's been incredible so far. I think I've watched like almost all of his videos. Insight Meditation Center. This one is a lot more gentle. I mean, Noah Levine is gentle. He's all about self-compassion and being compassionate towards other people. But if you ever go watch his channel, you know what I'm talking about. Insight Meditation Center is almost the complete opposite. These are other lay teachers of Buddhism, and I'm not too sure which tradition they follow, if any. It might be could even be secular Buddhism, but they have like really calming meditation centers and shorter Dharma talks, and they're really interesting. I highly recommend Insight Meditation Center. Clear Mountain Monastery. These are more Theravadan Buddhists, I believe. They're either in California or in Seattle. I can't remember. Pretty sure they're in Seattle. But every weekend they have live broadcasts of their Dharma talks and whatnot. and they also do videos here and there of other Dharma talks that they, I guess, held. I'm not too sure exactly, but they're a really good resource center for you too. Sravasti Abbey is Thubten Chodron, the Tibetan tradition. They have a channel, and they sometimes go live, and they also upload a lot of their Dharma talks. And I recommend them, especially if you're interested in Tibetan Buddhism. The Buddhist Society of Western Australia. This is a big one. A lot of people flock to this channel, and there's a good reason, because there's Ajahn Brahm. A lot of people absolutely love Ajahn Brahm, and there's a good reason. He's very funny, he tells great stories, and he's really, really good at doing the Dharma talk thing. I absolutely love watching them, and they have a ton of videos. They go live every Friday night for Dharma talks and meditation, guided meditations, and sometimes when they're on retreat, like I think just recently they wrapped up like a 10-day retreat or something, an 8-day retreat, where he would talk every morning and every evening, and they would live broadcast that. It's absolutely awesome. I can't recommend it enough. Alan Peto, I talked about him with his book, Buddhism in 10 Steps. Alan Peto has a channel where he educates you on all the Buddhist traditions and pretty much anything, but it's more of an education channel. But like I said, on Facebook, there's a group you can join called the Western Buddhist Support Group, I think it's called, and where he's connecting a lot of people. I highly recommend that as well. And last up, Plum Village, which is a village in Vietnam, I believe. No, wait, it started in France, I think. But there's another Plum Village in Vietnam, because that's where Thich Nhat Hanh is from. And they started this, and now it's a whole thing. You can get the Plum Village app, which I recommend. Has a lot of guided meditations and Dharma talks. Thich Nhat Hanh, when he was alive, obviously, there was a lot more videos with Thich Nhat Hanh in them, but now it's mostly... Thich Nhat Hanh passed away early 2022. He was 95, I believe. But he left a legacy, basically, and that's Plum Village, and I love watching their content as well. All right, now on to the podcasts, and this is the last section. Wild Heart Meditation Center. This is a podcast, I think it's from Tennessee, somewhere in Texas. It's basically sort of like Against the Stream. It's a meditation center where lay people also give Dharma talks. There's 3 or 4 of them that do this regularly. And this podcast is generally released every Wednesday, I believe. But the podcast itself focuses mostly on the Dharma talks, and every once in a while you get a guided meditation in there too. I kind of wish they had a YouTube channel where they could live stream this stuff, because it would feel like you belong with them a little bit more. I hope they do that in the future. The Secular Buddhism podcast is run by Noah. Oh, what's his? It's another Noah, not Noah Levine. I can't remember his last name, but secular Buddhism is basically belief in all of Buddhism except for maybe the more supernatural stuff. And I think, honestly, secular Buddhism could be called just the American adaptation of Buddhism, because Buddhism in North America isn't really too much of a thing. It's mostly in Asian and Indian countries. India, I should say, not Indian. So I think they only have one country. But Asian countries, basically all out there in the East. And it's since the 60s or so, it's been introduced to America, and it's slowly growing, but it's not anywhere near where it is in those countries. And I think secular Buddhism is sort of like, it's almost like America's, because America, if you're not Christian, then you're sort of atheist, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but so a lot of atheist people are sort of adapting this idea. People like me who like to think more on the scientific terms of things, and how things work, rather than thinking of, like the the invisible friend in the sky type thing, or the invisible father in the sky, which I don't believe in. And so I think it's a great introduction to Buddhism, especially if you, like I do, have any difficulty adapting to something that make you think you're falling into a sort of dogmatic practice. I think getting into the philosophy of Buddhism is a good idea to approach, which is secular Buddhism. So definitely check out this podcast, Secular Buddhism, because it teaches a lot. I mean, it's almost inseparable from other Buddhist podcasts and resources, because it talks all about the same thing, and you begin to wonder why it's called secular. Also, the Lion's Roar podcast. I've listened to a few of these episodes, and they're really good. Dharma Punks NYC. This guy, he gives a lot of I think his background. He's another tattooed guy. He's got tattoos everywhere, but he doesn't swear as much as Noah Levine does. And Dharma Punks is Noah Levine's first title of his first book. So the guy who runs Dharma Punks, he's sort of included with Noah Levine in some way. I'm not too sure exactly how. But he gives a lot of really interesting educational video or podcasts on like psychology and Buddhism. The Learn Buddhism podcast by Alan Peto. Some of the content you'll see on that is from his YouTube channels, or vice versa. Maybe it started off as or was released first as a podcast, but then became or he probably planned for it to be a video too, but you do get separate ones too. But I highly recommend that. And also, The Way Out is from Plum Village. There's a monk from Plum Village who hosts the show, along with a reporter, I believe, who frequents that monastery, and was maybe good friends with Thich Nhat Hanh, and this obviously he's good friends with the monk that he does the podcast with, and they talk about all sorts of great Buddhist topics of the world, and how to heal and all that stuff. I recommend them a lot too. They've helped me through some pretty dark times as well. So that is, I guess, my beginner's guide to Buddhist resources. I hope that somebody took away something beneficial from these, and thank you for watching. Keep being creative and keep being safe, and I'll catch you guys all in the next bookish video.